Hey guys, Tills20 here, and welcome back to Springwood. Today's episode, well, as you can probably tell, I'm doing something pretty crazy instead of my usual cinematic of Springwood, but yeah, some crazy shit's going down. I'll get to that very shortly, but before I do, just want to apologize for my lack of live streaming this week. I did promise I would in the last episode, but man, like my internet speed in my house is just so terrible. Well, the download speed's good, but the upload speed is just ridiculous. So I'm gonna try really, really hard to get it working, but it's just not gonna happen. So gonna change plans with my internet provider and figure that all out, because I do want to do some streaming eventually. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But let's actually get into today's build. Well, actually, you could probably argue today's demolition. I do demolish like so much. I reckon probably about 50% of my city. And yeah, I mean, you're probably wondering what the hell. But the reason behind it is that actual area I built almost a year ago. And that area was only there as a placeholder to get a bit of an idea of where I want things to go. And it was also my kind of foot in the door into YouTube. So I always wanted to do a channel, a series, but I wanted to start my series off with an actual city. So that was like the placeholder. Now I've now got a much better idea of what I want that area to look like. And I've just been sitting on it for a while, the ideas. Now it's totally cemented in my head. Now's the time to redo it all. So probably the next 5 to 7 episodes, no, probably not that long, but I'm going to be spending a lot of time redesigning this area. And I'm going to start off with the Skyline because that is the most iconic. It's seen from everywhere, and I've got the best understanding of how I want that to look. So today's episode's mostly on the Skyline, but I do also spend a bit of time figuring out where suburbs are going to sit and the general layout of the actual city, which is, like, in my mind, really, really important. The first up, though, I'm just something that always bothered me is so I've got like a Brooklyn bridge basically running across the river, connecting the two sides together. And I also had this highway that kind of snaked across the middle section of the city. But they weren't connected, so I mean, essentially, if you wanted to get to the other side from the highway, you had to dip down onto a road and, you know, cross the river that way. It was wasn't a real connection. So I thought I'd just put in this connection here. I've said this before, I'm really lazy and bad at doing like road connections. And this one in particular is really ugly actually. But like I justify the ugliness of this intersection just because like the intersections in like in the highways in cities, and I'm thinking mostly in Los Angeles, are quite ridiculously ugly. They don't match up, and they're you know, unleveled and dippy and just all over the place. So like I am kind of going for that look essentially, but I am also lazy at it. So I don't like, yeah. So don't throw daggers at me. I'm just going with it. But like I kind of also like this. It does create like a little bit of a, I don't know, kind of like a barrier, kind of a borderline for the downtown area, and then where it gets into more commercial and spreads off into suburbia. A little bit about what the old part of the city looked like. So the bits that I all deleted. Looking at some of the cinematics I'm going to show you right now, like it just didn't seem like I had this road that kind of curved off, and it was the main road, and I was kind of following a design that was in Brooklyn, and I don't know, it just was too wide. It was like it just was like a straight line and then a curve, and I just hated it. So that was my biggest problem. And then once you kind of delete that, then all these other little suburbs and bits and pieces I wanted to get rid of. Like looking at this, you can see old assets and, you know, vanilla trees and patches of ground where there used to be buildings, but I've unsubscribed from them. So it was just like a real mess. And I guess like now that you can do things like copy and paste, which wasn't an option when I built this area, it's going to be a lot easier to actually build it. And I do already have like a lot of like already made suburbs that I can just copy and paste and plop them over, and it's just so easy, and like I'll be able to achieve a much better look just by doing stuff like that. So like that's a little bit of a reason why I've decided to change it all. Plus like I started like redesigning the skyline because that was a mess, and then once it's like when you paint a hallway in your house, and you paint one wall and you go, oh, actually I've got to paint the bedroom. Oh, I better get new furniture, and then essentially redesign the entire house. Like that's what it felt like. I couldn't stop deleting. But yeah, I'm really happy I did it, because already this plan that I've started off has like given me a lot more it creates a more realistic city, and creates a bit more of the image that I want in. The image in my head that's coming out onto the actual game, which is awesome. So just here, this is basically me starting the process of mapping out where I want suburbs, where I want neighborhoods to exist, and where I want train stations to exist, I guess, in the sprawling part of the city. Now, when I originally made this city, I kind of just started from like the skyline, the downtown, and then expanded out. Whereas like, it always bothered me because that's not really how cities naturally develop. So I know that in Australia, when a city kind of develops, it kind of has a hub. So like, I guess like the downtown would be the hub, and that's where it kind of forms first. But then like all the towns around it, all the neighborhoods around the town aren't really, they're linked via roads and rail, but like in terms of like the sprawliness of like suburbs and industry and all that sort of stuff that kind of comes in between those areas, like they don't exist yet. And I'm talking about like way back before cities even exist, back when it's like a small village and towns kind of scattered around the place. And so it kind of bothered me that like I built it that way. Like it felt like there were no neighborhoods. So what I'm doing here is, with these train stations, I'm kind of essentially plopping out where I want neighborhoods to live. And each neighborhood's going to have like a particular like vibe going on, like a particular theme. So like one area might be like a downtown, or one area might be an old town, or one might be a university area, or just like a place with coffee shops and or industrial. So like each kind of neighborhood has its own thing going on, and then they're all kind of linked. So as I redesign this area, and I don't get to it in this episode, but when I do start redesigning, I'll design the village, the neighborhood first, and then I'm going to link them all at the very end with like suburbs and other little bits and pieces, parks and whatnot. And I think that's going to like give a much more realistic vibe to the city and a bit more character. I ramble on about character a lot. Character's a big part of this city. Like I wanted to have like a real theme and like a real story to it. So I'm hoping that's going to add to the actual realism and character of the city. And I also was never a massive fan of how I had planned out this rail line, because I mean this rail line kind of, it's like the only line that would shoot all the way across the city. So like at some places there's going to need to be double or quadruple rails, like rail lines, and because there's going to be like freight trains that are just going to cross right through it, like not even stop. And there's going to be trains that are going to stop at every station, and some trains that do a loop around the city. So like I was kind of being really mindful of that and trying to make it look like it's got room for trains to overtake and stop at stations and do loops and all that sort of stuff. So like I was kind of trying to get that sort of a feel. Something that I do really struggle with when planning out is, you have to kind of imagine things. I mean, because like I play this a lot, and like each episode's like it's like 12-20 hours of work. Probably not that long, but like it's a long time. So like when you're like using these roads, you kind of have to like plan like a month in advance, you know, what am I going to put down there in like in a month's time? And that's like pretty hard, but it's also really important because like, as like when I originally plopped down this spot in the city, I kind of just did it, you know, hastily and got it down, and then I was never that satisfied. Whereas like the places that I'm really planning, I'm really satisfied with how they look. So I'm kind of like being really thoughtful and mindful of where I actually place these roads and how I want it to actually look. And going with that neighborhood vibe, I do want it to look like the roads are kind of connected via the neighborhoods. So, you know, the neighborhood exists, the roads like sprawl out, and then they connect in that way. Main roads are like, have been there for centuries, hundreds of years, and all these other roads just get, you know, built as each neighborhood expands and the city expands, and then they become all connected. So like I'm trying to like get that sort of a look, and yeah, it's like really hard. It's really, really tricky. Yeah, like I said before, like this is me just mass deleting, like just deleting a delete rampage. It was just crazy. It was so crazy to delete all this stuff. Like I felt like just like massive grin on my face, just like laughing madly. It was just like, it was out of control. But like it felt really good. And yeah, like don't start thinking, oh, he's never going to finish the city. He's a perfectionist. He's just going to go back and redesign everything. He's just like, you know, like I think I joked last week about, you know, you'll be tuning in for episode 213. Well, no. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I promise. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, like doing this kind of made me feel like, God, man, what are you doing? Just get this job done. Like finish the series at some point. But no, this was always the plan. Always the plan, had to do it. Down in this little corner here, I delete this rail yard. I was never satisfied with it. What I actually really want to go there is, I want there to be like this industrial park that's, because I mean, like there is already an industrial park next door, but I want there to be another industrial park, but like holding like a, you know, lots of big drums, or like an oil plant, or, you know, like it's like a big shipping yard, but I guess it's not really near any docks. Well, I guess it is kind of near a dock, but like I do want like a big shipping yard or something like that there. This is, yeah, I'm really happy with how this connection kind of took place. So yeah, you'll see me building in a second, but I do have a lot of roads connecting to the downtown area. That was always my plan. I always wanted, you know, good network connections, like good road connections. So around in this area, there's this, what is, I feel like a real main road. I mean, only parts of it are a highway, and it does turn into like, you know, like a main road eventually, but it's essentially like a highway that goes from that Brooklyn area to the downtown. But also there's this road here, I'm going to create it in a second, but it goes underneath the city and connects up to the Brooklyn Bridge. God, I need to think of some like original names, don't I? Please shoot me some names in the comments below, guys. We need to start naming this city. We need to name some suburbs, because I can't call them, like, I can't keep calling places Brooklyn and Los Angeles and Brooklyn Bridge and stuff. It's getting ridiculous. So yeah, start naming my places, please. But yeah, like this road, I feel like it just works so nicely. Shoots underneath the highway over there, and yeah, like a little bit of a connection here. It's just beautiful. Like, yeah, I was really happy with how this whole area kind of worked out. But I did have a little bit of a problem, because there was already a rail line kind of coming across this area, and it was above ground, so like I had to figure out a way of shooting it through across, like somehow like snaking underneath or going over this overpass, and yeah, it was really hard, but I figured out a pretty nifty little way of achieving that look. And like I said before, really lazy, and maybe not lazy, but just a bit slack when it comes to road connections. like a little bit of a part of that is I feel like if something's going to go wrong with the game, or if something's going to get updated with the game, it's going to be the connections first. It's going to be the roads first. And like, I don't really want to start plopping down too many props on the roads, and then they bring out an update and it's like, oh, you know, roads change and here are some beautiful lines. Like, that's going to kill me. So like I'm just kind of like a bit hesitant to start painting down lines on the roads. This train station turned out really cool. Like, this was a really difficult area to work with. What I was saying before is like, there needs to be more than 2 lanes of rail, because there's going to be freight trains and express trains running along this spot. So I kind of needed like alternative routes, and like, this is quite common in, you know, in other cities. Like, we're looking at Brooklyn here. They do have these kind of above ground rail lines, and rarely are there just a single, you know, rarely is there just like no overtaking lanes for the trains. So like, I'm really conscious of that, but I also didn't have much room to work with. And I also needed a junction here too. So this is me trying to figure out this junction. It was really hard to make. And well, this below one is for the whatever sort of industrial I have sitting down there. I haven't really decided that yet. Definitely let me know if you have an idea. But yeah, I'm trying to like just figure out where these overtaking lanes are going to sit. I'm sure that's not really the right term for train overtaking lanes, but that's just me. Yeah, so like, I was using these single ones, and I think they kind of work pretty well. But yeah, so I just use this single lane just to kind of divert traffic from the train station, because I guess that's not a main train station, but like, it is like, I don't want too much traffic going through it. Yeah. And then, yeah, these, something about the train stations, I guess, that I'm using. There's some really great train station assets on the workshop, but like, I'm really hesitant to just download all of them, because I find that like, in a city, there's only like a couple of variations of what a train station looks like, really. So like, I just kind of stick to like 2 or 3 kind of looks of a train station, and I just roll with it. You know, that's just how it looks, and I don't change it up too much. But yeah, like, I think, yeah, I really kind of wish I could download all of them, because they do look really cool. Here's my cool overpass, underpass section here. Like, there's just perfect amount of room for this train line. Yeah, it was a really, really tight, this whole area is like really tightly connected together. It was kind of tricky to squeeze together, but like, it does work. Like, it works, but it's just really, really tight. But yeah, I think I might leave you guys with the rest of the time lapse in peace, and just check out what I do with the train line here. It's like the junction. It's like, it's only for looks. Like, it's really not effective. Yeah, actually, I'll talk in this a little bit, because it's kind of, I need a bit of an explanation. So this like above ground train line is really hard to work with, because it's just not really that malleable. Well, it is, but it's not. So like, I kind of made this this quadruple line thing here, and I figured, because there's going to be a lot of train traffic going along here, and so there does need to be quite a lot of lines for them to choose from, and it's purely for looks. Like, it's impractical. I haven't seen a train go over it yet, but I'm sure it's just gonna like fly in the air and then go underground, and like, I mean, you can see it, like, it's a mess. It's a total mess. But like, in terms of athletics, it's kind of like, I think it works. You know, I kind of wanted it to look like there was multiple lanes and they could choose, and it's all over the place. But yeah, I think you get the idea. I just realized actually that I'm going to talk the entire time lapse, because there are some bits and pieces that I do need to kind of explain, and there are like some interesting bits that I do want to talk about. And yeah. So we're kind of getting closer to me actually making the Skyline. And I do use a bit of a technique that I've seen other YouTubers do. I think it works really well. But before I get into that, again, trying to like think about where these train stations sit, and how well they service these areas. This one is quite a centrally one, like it's one of the only central train stations, so I had to kind of make it double, well, quadruple platformed, because I felt it was going to get a lot of traffic, and like would have been nice to have some, I don't know, some extra lanes or whatever, because this is kind of getting closer to where I do want to put a bit more of a central station, so there's going to be quite a lot of traffic coming through, but you know, like I think it still works. So here is me like plopping down every building that I have sorry, every building that I have in my asset collection, and like I just have a whole bunch. I've just been subbing to any of them that I kind of like the idea and like the feel for, but you know, didn't really know if I wanted to keep them, because I guess when you look at them on the workshops, they look different to how you kind of, you know, how they look in the game. And essentially, yeah, so I plop them over there in the corner, and then I use like it's like a copy and paste tool, and then I can kind of copy and paste them, drag them over to where I actually want them to sit. And for this skyline, I want it to be really particular, so I'm not going for like super crazy tall buildings. Like I've got a couple of crazy skyscrapers over there, and like I love the shape of them, but they're just too tall. And I did kind of want like a circular building to be the tallest one there, or like be pretty close to the tallest one there, like in the actual skyline. But yeah, it was kind of hard to find. So I do actually splice two buildings together, and I think it kind of works. I don't know, like let me know in the comments. I think it works. I don't know. Like I think it kind of works a bit. And I didn't want there to be like huge amounts of skyscrapers in the actual skyline area. So I was actually really conscious about that. And yeah, like when I'm kind of like plopping these down, in my mind, I kind of like I have to keep on going back and looking at the skyline from a distance and from different angles, and because I do want it to kind of look a little bit like the skyline in LA. But again, I've like spoken about this, but like I'm not copying LA. I'm just like using a lot of ideas from it. And like, you know, you've got the bank tower there, which is really iconic. So I kind of wanted something similar to that. I definitely didn't want exactly that. I really just didn't want that. So I kind of make my own one. And it's a shame because there's the bank tower, there's heaps of them on the workshop, but like I just like refraining from getting them, because again, I really don't want just people to go, oh look, he's made LA. Well, like no, I really haven't. But like, yeah, I do want that vibe going on. And I also wanted the downtown to be essentially like a new development. Like I wanted most of the buildings to be quite new and fresh. I wanted quite a lot of space below them. I didn't want it to be like a crowded New York style sort of area. I wanted some old buildings because I wanted to have a bit of history, but I really didn't want it to be too old, because they will have an old town section of the actual city. Something that I've just learnt about is like we're using the Find It mod, which is so freaking amazing. But using the Find It mod, you can find like growable buildings, and there's another mod that I'm using that kind of gives me the option. I can't really remember the name of it, but basically if I can find growable buildings, plop them down, and they're not going to just despawn because they're not plopped on on an actual zoned area. So like you can just like search them, and all the thumbnails come up, and you search like residential area, and then they just like comes up with every building that exists, and you just plop them down and they don't despawn. It's just like perfect. Like it's exactly what I think all of us have been wanting, and it just works so nicely, especially in these areas where you don't really want just random buildings growing, or you don't really want them redeveloping into, you know, upgrading or whatever. You just want them to look how you plop them down, and then that's it. So, like, it's really cool that, like, that even exists. Also, with this downtown area, I do want there to be, like, quite a few government houses, you know, not houses, but buildings. So, you know, I've got a town hall and some offices and, like, you know, sort of like libraries, like grand libraries and things like that. But, like, if there's anything that you think that I really need in the downtown area, like an area that's been established for, you know, hundreds of years, the real main heart center of the town, of the city, like, let me know in the comments below, because I'm gonna miss something, like, no doubt. So tell me, what do we need? What do we need in this heart of the city? But, like, that's pretty much it, guys. Like, it's a bit of a all over the shop episode, but, like, I think it's kind of interesting. Thanks everyone who commented in the last episode about the religion of Springwood. I've been reading them all, been laughing. They're great, really interesting. I've kind of chosen a couple and spliced them together. We'll talk about it in the next episode. I've kind of forgot to talk about it now. But in the meantime, have a great week, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya.